All right, our next journal entry for Unit 4. Remember, this whole unit is about linear equations. So when we talk about linear equations, there are two forms that we use for linear equations. So we have two forms of linear equations. Now, this is going to be on the next page in your journal. I just want you to see like a big picture idea. So the first form we use is slope-intercept, and the second form we use is standard form. And I want you to see them side by side so we can compare the differences. Slope-intercept form looks like this: y equals mx plus b. Standard form looks like this: ax plus by equals c. Now, here's what I want you to know about some of this stuff. This one, look what's by itself. My y variable is by itself. Everything else is on the other side. This one is always nice and pretty. And this one over here, this slope-intercept form, you can have fractions. We're going to talk about having decimals in there later, so it can kind of look messy with fractions and decimals. Over here, everything looks pretty. We've got my x and y variable on one side, we have my constant term on the other side, and everything on here has to be whole integers, or just integers. They can be negative or positive. But it's all pretty, okay? So these are the big pieces of them. Now in our journal, so on the next page in our journal, now we're going to go into the differences between them. But I did want you to see that big picture. So let me pull it up. So let's go into more detail about that slope-intercept form. We already said slope-intercept form was y equals mx plus b. If you remember from the last page, what did m stand for? Remember where my beautiful story took place? My skier who skied left to right, my mathematician? It took place on where? Where was the m? It was the mountain. So m stands for slope, and b is the y-intercept. I like to call it, because it starts with B, I like to call it my beginning point, because that's where we find where my graph begins. So I say beginning point, but really the technical definition is my y-intercept. And you know what your y-intercept is. Think about your graph right here. You know, here's x and y. Y-intercept is where it starts on the y-axis. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. All right, so really the only two things you need to know is what does m stand for and what does b stand for. So when you look at this, and I'm going to keep my formula up there, y equals mx plus b, y and x will always stay the same because y and x stand for ordered pairs. So in one line, when you think about a line on a graph, how many ordered pairs do you have? Well, you have millions. You have infinitely many because you can keep going up. So x and y, if I were to graph those x and y values, I could have a million x and y's. So x and y is going to remain there because that just means they change. They change all the time. You got millions of them in a line. And remember, line, linear equation. So x and y have to remain there. You have to have an x and y. The only thing that changes in a line, two things: slope, y-intercept. That's it. Everything else is the same. Only two things can change my line: slope and y-intercept. So here, you know it's got to be y equals what? So y equals mx plus b. So what is the slope? The slope is 2, so 2x. And then my beginning point, my y-intercept, is negative 1. So notice your slope and your x, your slope is your coefficient of your x variable, right? And then your beginning point, your y-intercept, is your constant term. So your coefficient is my slope. My constant term is my beginning point, or my y-intercept. So when I go down the line here, it's going to be y equals negative 3/5 x, because my slope is my coefficient, plus 4. My beginning point is 4, positive 4. So let's see if you can fill these in. Y equals negative 3x, coefficient is slope, plus 2. Y equals negative 1x. Could I just put negative x here? Sure, because it's the coefficient, so you can have a negative x. Plus 7. Y equals 1/4 x plus 0. Can I simplify this equation? Yeah, I can. I don't really have to have a plus 0. It's understood if it's just your slope and your coefficient that my beginning point is 0 because there's nothing here. It's plus 0. And then number 6, y equals negative 5 halves x minus 3. So that's the examples filled in. Now, how do you read it from a graph? Well, you only have to know 2 things. The last section, you could already find your slope, right? We found a slope from a line. We found a slope from 2 ordered pairs. So the only thing different that we need to find is my beginning point. And remember, my beginning point is my y-intercept. Where does this graph intersect the y-axis? So let's look. I'm going to expand these. 200. All right. So look at number 7. Here's my y-axis. Where does it intersect? Right here. Right here. So my beginning point is negative 4. Negative 4 is my beginning point. That's where it intersects my y-axis. And I already know how to find slope. Slope is positive 3 over 1. So my slope is 3 over 1. So my equation then is just going to be y equals 3. I could put 3 over 1. I'm just going to put 3. So y equals 3x minus 4. Okay, let's try another one. Number 8. Where is my beginning point? Where does it cross my y-axis? Right here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it crosses my y-axis at 7. So my beginning point is 7. My slope I know is negative. So it's going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down 6. Run 4. But that can be reduced to negative 3 over 2. So when I put it together as my equation, y equals negative 3 halves x plus 7. Always remembering that slope is my coefficient and my beginning point is that constant term. All right, so try a few on your own, and I'm going to write them down real quickly. So number 9, my beginning point is negative 3. My slope is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my equation is y equals 2 fifths x minus 3. That's my equation for number 9. I'm going to go over the odds. So let's just scroll up. My beginning point is 2, 3, 4, 5. And my slope is down 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But that's reduced to negative 1/4. So my equation is y equals 5. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 5. Okay, let's take a look at number 13. My beginning point is negative 3. My slope is down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So down 8, run 1, 2, 3, 4, which reduces to negative 2. So my equation is y equals negative 2x minus 3. I hope you're getting this. Number 15. My beginning point is negative 2. My slope is positive up 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which reduces to 1/3, making my equation y equals 1/3 x minus 2. Okay? All right. So that is your slope-intercept form. Oh, let's talk about that, slope-intercept. Think about slope-intercept form. If I ask you on a test, what is your slope-intercept form? Think about it. It's asking for the slope and it's asking for the intercept. So when you have y equals mx plus b in this graph, you're given a slope and you're given an intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form, because you have a slope and you have an intercept. So that's the reasoning behind that type of form for the linear equation. Okay? All right, that's your video. Now next we're going to talk about standard form.